morning. Can I get some more energy? Can I get some more energy? Good morning.
Do your arms like this, everybody. Yeah, there you go. Wake on up. Wake on up. There you go.
Everybody here, all the leaders that came, we can't take our time for granted. We want to cherish each and every moment, okay? Amen. All right? And that's why God put the vision in my head. When the righteous rule, Proverbs 29:2, when the righteous rule, the people rejoice.
Now, most of y'all know me. Some of y'all don't. My name is Elder Eric Cameron. Most of y'all, everybody affectionately calls me Freeze. And so one thing most of y'all know about me is I'm kind of a live wire, like a lot of energy. So before we get all the way into this thing, the young men, I need y'all to stand back up one more time. One more time. We gotta wake up. Wake up. All right, simple instructions. When I say team, y'all say Jesus. Y'all ready? Now when I say team, you say Jesus. Team. Jesus. Team. Jesus. All right, was that good? Was that okay? Amen. I will be your moderator for today. Y'all can sit down. Thank you so much. And the reason why we do that is so y'all can wake up and be active in this and participating in this panel discussion. All right? So at this time, I'm not even going to say y'all's name. I don't want to steal no thunder. We're going to ask if our panelists will go ahead and take the stage.
Good morning. Good morning. So I'm going to be honest. I know Freeze kind of got y'all going a little bit. I need a little bit more from y'all.
Go ahead, man.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, my name is Sam Johnson. I'm born and raised here in Columbia, South Carolina. I've had the pleasure of working in the mayor's office. So I was Mayor Benjamin's chief of staff for about 6-7 years. Went to law school. I've had the pleasure to now raise a 5-year-old and a 6-month-old, now 7-month-old. My wife gonna get me in trouble here. I am honored to be here this morning. I want to thank Antoine. I want to thank the entire Bible Way Church, Pastor Jackson, who's just been a mentor and somebody I've known since I was y'all's age, I feel like that. And so I run a firm here in Columbia that helps companies and nonprofits around the country. So I'm on the plane a lot, helping them understand how to deal with cities. So I'll stop there, but I need y'all's energy this morning, okay, y'all?
Good morning. Okay. My name is Kambrell, Garvin. I am a member of the South Carolina House of Representatives. I think y'all are taking a tour to the State House in a couple of weeks, right? Did I read that correctly? Okay, so next weekend, y'all are going to the State House, and that's where I work. I've been a member of the State House now. In January, it'll be 8 years, and so it goes by fast. I'm sure these fellows on this panel, I'm honored to be here with them, but they will tell you that the older you get, the faster life goes. And so you blink one day and 8 years have passed. I am a practicing attorney here in Columbia. I practice in the area of personal injury law, so you may have seen me on billboards around town. And so I help people who've been seriously hurt and injured. While not practicing law, I am a proud dad of a 4-year-old little girl who keeps me busy. Born and raised right here in Columbia, proud Richland 1 graduate. Went to AC Flora High School. I'm thinking, okay, I see the AC Flora fan. Okay. Go Falcons. That's okay. Go Falcons. I think my career path shows that there's not one right way to do it. Undergrad, I went to Winthrop University where I majored in political science. After finishing undergrad, I decided to become a teacher. I taught 6th grade science through a program called Teach for America. While teaching 6th grade science, I had an opportunity to earn a master's from Johns Hopkins. After all of that, I went to USC for law school. And while in law school, I ran for office. And then after law school, I even went back and got a 4th degree in an MBA from South Carolina State University. So that shows that there's no one right way to do it, and you can do anything that you put your mind to and never allow others confines to hold you in or to say that you're going to do one thing one way. Looking forward to a good conversation, fellas.
Can you be my science teacher?
I would be happy to be your science teacher. Yes, sir.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Tyler Bailey. I serve on Columbia City Council at large. That means I represent the entire city. For work or by trade, I'm a lawyer. I'm a civil rights lawyer, so I represent people and families sometimes with their loved one that been killed or harmed by police departments. If there's been problems in the school system, in the prison system, that's generally a lot of the work that I do. I'm from Columbia. Both my parents are pastors, and so I spent a lot of Saturdays doing exactly what y'all are doing. I credit that to the majority of any success that I've had. Not I was raised here in Columbia, but we moved down here from up north, so my church family was like my real family. Like the guys y'all sit next to were like my cousins and brothers, and so that kept me in check. I played sports in high school. I played football and I played basketball, and I applied myself only to the level necessary to get a scholarship. That means I didn't start applying myself really until I got into law school, really. I just knew I had some athletic ability and I wanted to go to Hampton University where I went. And so I was able to go there on a football scholarship. I stopped playing football, but I loved Hampton. Graduated from there, now went to law school at Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I went to 2 HBCUs, and I had a professor in my business law course who knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, who said that you can do a lot of good for our community by being a lawyer, and you can mix your love for business. So that struck a light bulb in my head, and I said, I'm gonna start my own law firm. And so I started my own law firm right out of law school, representing people here in Columbia. I have 2 kids. I have 2 boys. I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. They go to school with Jameson, who's in the crowd back there. And it's good to be here. I hope y'all enjoy this conversation, and maybe there'll be opportunity for some questions and answers at the end too.
Good morning. Good morning. Repeat after me. I am valuable. I am smart. I am an African American male. I can do anything I put my mind to. Good morning again. I'm Jamie Devine. I am a 17-year member of Richland 1 Board of School Commissioners. I'm glad to be here, and I will tell you, I'm glad to serve with these fellows here. We often talk individually as well as collectively. So I am born and raised in the great city of Aiken, South Carolina, a little country town called Bath, B-A-T-H. Graduated, came to Benedict College, graduated from Benedict, and started working in the housing field. So I started working with the Columbia Housing Authority about 30 years ago. This is my 31st year in housing. And I have my own nonprofit called Community Assistance Provider, where we provide housing economic development to the low to moderate income persons in and around the greater Columbia area. And so I am married to Senator Tamika Isaac Devine. We have 4 beautiful children, 1 in heaven, 3 on earth. 1 is in the back, Jameson, who is 3rd grade at Logan Elementary. And then we have Jade, who is a sophomore at Dreer, and then Tamia, who is a graduate of AC Florida High School, but now is a junior at American University, actually studying overseas in Greece for the semester. So we are proud of all of our children. I will tell you, we're members of Brooklyn Baptist Church West Campus, where Reverend Dr. Charles B. Jackson Sr. is our pastor, and Charles B. Jackson Jr. is a co-pastor. But I'm just glad to be here. I'm glad to sit amongst you as we pour into you. Y'all pour into us, because you are our future. We stand on the shoulders of others that came before us, and we also now, you are standing on our shoulders, but we want to make sure that we continue to have this circular dialogue to move us forward. And just before I sit, I want to thank Pastor and Freeze and everybody here, Daniel and everybody, for having us here. This is a great opportunity to learn from others in the community. I want to shout out to former Superintendent Dr. Baron Davis for being here. Thank you, Brother Davis, for being here as well. Graduate of Richland 1 C.A. Johnson High School. Great Omega man. Along with my other brother here, and he'll tell you about his fraternity. There are other brothers that are fraternity members here too.
All right.
But I love the purple and gold, Omega Psi Phi fraternity. But it's good to be here. Thank y'all. Looking forward to the conversation. Don't do that.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Derrek, Pugh. I serve as the Vice Chairman of the Richland County Council. Now you may say, what is the Vice Chair? If you think about the President of the United States, he has a second in command. It's called the Vice President. I would be considered to be the Vice President of the County Council of Richland. I'm a graduate of Benedict College. I'm originally from the metropolitan area of Dillon, South Carolina. I've been in Columbia for over 25 years. I've poured into the community for years. I used to run all the after-school programs and summer camps in Richland County. I am currently a professor in the business department at Allen University. I also serve as the chairman and managing director for United Cerebral Palsy of South Carolina. United Cerebral Palsy of South Carolina serves individuals who have disabilities, but we strive to make them live a normal life. We serve all throughout the state of South Carolina, and I'm the guy that runs the entire show here in South Carolina. I am absolutely pleased and honored to be here. I want to thank Pastor Jackson and my main man Freeze for allowing me to be here to help pour into you guys. And as Brother Devine said a few minutes ago, pour into us. Tell us how you feel. Ask us questions. Ask us about how we got here. Ask us the roadblocks and things that we have endured. Ask us about the things that we currently endure. Because I can tell you, and I can probably speak for every man on this panel, we are always open to learn. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to this fruitful conversation.
All right, let's give our panelists a hand. We can do better than that. Y'all make some noise for them. That's right. So again, we want to personally say thank you to every one of you all for accepting the invitation and showing up today. We're proud of you. We're going to start off with a general question for the panelists. I have some panelist-specific questions. Yeah, they called y'all out individually, praise the Lord. But there's some great questions. But what I want to do, shameless plug, I was born and raised small town Topeka, Kansas. Mostly known civil rights-wise is for the Brown versus Board of Education during the Civil Rights Movement. But I remember when I was you all's age, that was the first time my mom started taking me to city council meetings. And at first, I never understood it, didn't know what was going on, didn't know who the people were. And as I became older, years went by, I started to understand more what it was about. And so the general question, if you all could share briefly, when you were these guys' age, did you ever see yourself being where you're at now?
Sure, let me ask this question. Who's the oldest?
The oldest? Okay. That young man right there, nope. Oh yeah, the young man, yeah. Yes, sir. Probably him.
How old are you? 17. Okay, and who's the youngest?
Probably Joshua right there on the end.
9. James 8. All right. Okay. So that's perfect. I just wanted to get a frame of answering that question. Well, y'all gonna laugh at me. So my pediatrician lied to me.
Not the doctor.
Appreciate it. He told me I was gonna be 6'6". Okay? I ain't gonna make Tyler stand up to show how short I am there. So he told me I was gonna be 6'6". So when I was y'all's age, especially on the younger side, once I realized that wasn't gonna be true, I thought I was gonna be an NBA basketball player. Okay? So I'm just gonna be very transparent with y'all this morning. And then I started studying, because I had to. I wasn't gonna be 6'6", like he told me. And for me, I had a couple of different role models. Have y'all ever seen the South Carolina African American History Calendar?
I've seen the museum.
So for me, I used to go to church on Sundays, and I lived with my grandparents for a few years growing up. And so I went to a lot of church. And on Sundays, if you turn on the radio and you go to church, anywhere in the Midlands, especially in South Carolina, you were going to hear I.S. Levy Johnson. So I would hear I.S. Levy Johnson, and then I would read in the South Carolina African American History Calendar his bio. And the bios of other folks, I think it was Jamie who mentioned the folks, the shoulders that we stand on. Many of those folks who were in that African American History Calendar at that time are the folks, quite frankly, that he was mentioning, folks that we stand upon, right? And especially as I was getting older and going through high school, my mom was a night shift nurse, Alzheimer's nurse. My dad was a truck driver. And so I was a first generation college student, and there wasn't a clear roadmap. I had folks who I could lean on, like Master Tracy Goodwin, Baron Davis, who was my assistant principal, who literally kept me out of, picked me up and took me out of trouble a few times, and I'm thankful for it. But I didn't understand what success meant. I didn't understand what it looked like. You know, as Kambrell mentioned, Tyler mentioned, you know, becoming a lawyer was something I thought about, but I didn't really understand the process of pursuing that type of goal. I knew that I wanted to help my community, but I didn't understand, how do the folks like a James Felder or I.S. Levy Johnson, today's world, a Kambrell Garvin, a Derrek Pugh, or a James Devine or a Tyler, how do they give up their time, right? Because like I saw my dad, who was a truck driver, who would drive from right here to California and back, and that would take like 2 weeks, right? Different loads, that sort of thing. How do they have enough time to pour into their community, but also make a living, to be with their families? And so I didn't understand how it all worked. And I said to myself, when I was in high school, I'm being very transparent. If you go on the South Carolina State House website, I don't know if it's still like this, but you could email your representatives, right? So one day, y'all remember dial-up internet?
No, they don't.
Okay. So I got my parents, I got permission. See how y'all got these little phones in your hands and stuff right now? I got permission to get on the internet, because back then it cost a little clock, right? And if you got on the internet, it was a little clock that counted how long you were on the internet, and it cost money, okay? Y'all like, this is they looking at me like, this is prehistoric. And so I emailed, just being very transparent, every black elected official in Columbia that was on the State House website, and asked them if I could shadow them. And there were a few who responded. His dad was one of them. Anton Gunn was one of them. And that's how I started getting the permission and the opportunity to pick their brains and understand how they were giving of their time. And so for me, it was the opportunity to get proximity, to be able to sit down and look folks in the eyes and understand how they got where they are. And so, some of you, I'm sure, all have very different goals in life, dreams, visions that you want. Proximity is key. Being able to see who's done it before you, how you want to do it differently, how you want to do it better. For me, like I said, I want to be a 6'6" basketball player. I wanted to see how I was going to be better than Jordan. And I was on my way until my growth spurt stopped.
So I was your age when I decided what I wanted to do, and I see Commissioner Devine shaking his head because I met him and Senator Devine when I was probably 12 or 13 as a member of the local chapter of yesterday. I'm 30. I'll be 34 in a couple of weeks, so it's been. Yeah, that's right. So I met him as a teenager, as a high school student at Flora, and I'll tell you what really spurred my growth in public service was being able to see my granddad, who was the first African American on the city council down in Marion, South Carolina, Councilman Pugh. And the thing about small towns is that there are a lot of cliques and there are a lot of folks that you have to be on kind of like the inside to get anything done. And he was the kind of person that pushed back against the establishment. He was the kind of person that said, if this isn't right, then we're not going to do it. And he was a voice for his community. And the way that he was able to be a voice for his community is because he was not beholden to anybody for anything. Now, what do I mean by that? He owned his own business, okay? When you own your own stuff, it allows you to be able to speak freely and to speak out in the face of injustice. And so seeing that example, he owned a funeral home, and the funeral home is still in existence today. He also pastored a church for 50 years. And so when you do that, and when you have that kind of level of independence and growing up and seeing that this man was truly unbought and unbossed because he owned his own stuff, it showed me the importance of ownership. So a couple of years ago, when I graduated law school, that's why I wanted to be a lawyer, because I knew that it was the path to be able to control my destiny, in the sense that I didn't have to answer to anybody, from the angle of employment. So a couple of years ago when I started my practice, I did it partially because I wanted to be able to not feel pressure or to not be able to feel unable to speak out against issues of importance in our community. Think about it, when somebody's paying your salary, sometimes you have to be careful, particularly in this climate that we're in, where we're seeing folks get canceled, where we're seeing folks that are speaking the truth and who are being told that they can no longer serve in their jobs and in their capacities. Because people don't like what they're saying. So that was for me a motivation to be a lawyer and to also be in public service. So to answer the question, and let me wrap it up with this. When I was in high school, I was sitting in my 11th grade AP English class, and I probably should have been paying more attention than I was, but I drafted out what I wanted to do with my life as a 17-year-old. And what I did is I wrote down the year and I wrote down the goal. So let me give you an example. So for example, at 17, I wrote down graduate high school. When I wrote down the year, it was 2009. And then at 18, I knew that I wanted to go to college, and I knew that I wanted to be the student government president, because I had an example through one of our good friends, Bakari Sellers, who did it. So I looked at what Bakari did, and Bakari went to Morehouse, and he was student body president. He came back home. He ran for office while in law school. So when I was in 11th grade, that's exactly what I wrote down what I wanted to do. So when I got to college, I already knew what the goal was. I knew on day one that I wanted to be student government president in college, okay? So I started working towards that goal and ended up serving 2 years as a student body president. I never planned to become a teacher, like I mentioned earlier, so I think this story, the important thing about this story is that it's good to be flexible. It's good to have a plan. The Bible says to write the vision and make it plain, right? So it's good to have a plan, but it's also good to listen to God's will and to be flexible when things don't go according to your plan or go according to the way you want them to go. So long story short, I did everything that I said at 17 that I wanted to do. Go to law school, graduate college, go to law school, run for office, become a lawyer. And at 17 years old. So I want to encourage you all to do that. And I tell folks now that I've accomplished all those goals, everything else is bonus. Everything else is extra. And it's a blessing to be able to say that, and I want you all to be able to say that. One last point. Everybody won't have as clear of a vision as I did. So I want to be clear about that. But it's okay to start planning. It's okay to start praying. It's okay to start thinking about what you want to do. Like my good friend Sam just said, he wanted to be a basketball player. But when things didn't go that way because that growth spurt didn't hit, mine didn't hit either, so it's okay. When that didn't happen for him, he was okay with diverting plans, okay? But be flexible, but definitely think long term at 17.
All right, clap it up. Clap it up, clap it up.
I'm gonna try to be a little bit brief, but good transition for what Representative Garvin said about not having a vision, because when I was y'all's age, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I know what I did not want to be. And so when I was probably 8 years old, my dad, who's a pastor, but he used to work for an insurance company as an adjuster. He got fired from his job, and he was depressed for a long time. And I remember, like yesterday, the day my mom went in there, she opened the blinds up, she said, "You gotta get out of this house and do something." And so I think it was probably at that point I realized I didn't want to work for anybody, just because I didn't want to have my destiny in somebody else's hand. So I knew I wanted to kind of control my own future, and I knew I wanted to be successful. And what that looked like when I was y'all's age was probably starting varsity, having some girlfriends, some numbers in my phone, right? And so I just, and I knew I wanted to go get a scholarship. I wanted to go play at a high level. I have friends who are really talented, but they went off on the wrong track. Guys who were probably could be in the NBA, NFL right now, got involved with gangs, selling drugs, and other things, and that completely took their life down another path. And so I saw guys who were older than me go down the wrong path, so I knew to stay away from that as best as I could. And so you may not, I think it's important when you're this age to know that the decisions that you make can change your life, even as young as y'all are. And now social media is younger. And so my parents, I said, were pastors, people in church used to say, which one of y'all's gonna be the preacher? And I used to be a little shorter, a little rounder, scared to speak publicly. So I knew I wouldn't be the preacher, but I knew I had to do something. And so I used to try to apply myself. My dad used to push me for grades. I was taught, maybe sit in the front of the class, so I had to stand out and pay attention. And those little things that helped me. And two, I think I got to the point where I could hear from God what I was supposed to do with my life. And so I think it's really important, even if you don't have the vision, you don't know, you may not think, hey, I never thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I did not think I was gonna be a lawyer or anything like that until I saw that for myself later on in life. But keep yourself on the path so you don't foreclose those opportunities for you. So try to keep good grades. If you're not the best student, just try to do better. Stay away from games. Even your friends who are involved with them, I know how it is. Even at a young age, because it changes real quick. And friends of mine who went to jail 18, they're getting out now after doing 15 years, 20 years coming out. And it's the same that I realized they grew up their whole life, they grew up in jail. Now they're 40 years old, they're trying to get reacclimated to society. So stay on the right path. God will bring your vision for your life to you at the appropriate time, but don't close those doors for you before you get there.
Okay, so like Kambrell, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I knew I wanted to be an elected official. I knew I wanted to, and like Tyler, I'm a PK, I'm a preacher's kid. My dad's a former pastor, he's retired now, down in Aiken. And so growing up, the church did a lot for us, just like this. I had my first public speech was in church. Easter, Christmas, huh?
Yeah.
Right? So Daddy had us in church Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, choir, rehearsal. So I grew up in the church. I grew up at, as the preacher's kid. So people looked to us to be the leaders of the community. So I knew I wanted to lead. I've been in student government since seventh grade class vice president, 8th grade class president, and 9th through 12th grade, and 9th through 11th grade class president, and I was student body president in my high school 12th grade year. Then I went to Benedict, freshman class president, sophomore class president, my junior year, and then my senior year, I was student rep to the board of trustees. So I always wanted to do leadership. Then I took a break and then joined the Richland One School Board in 2008. So I took about a 10-year hiatus, but I came back to what I knew and what I wanted to do. So I had a vision, as you said earlier, and I wanted to be a lawyer. But because I didn't do well on the LSAT, I working for the Columbia Housing Authority as one of 10 interns. I was the only one that stayed. And then I realized God isn't making any more land. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna make this into a career. And so I was fortunate enough to do it, had decent credit, started buying property, and it just worked well in my favor at 24, 25 years old as a young man. But I will tell you, I had that vision of being a lawyer. So I have a little running joke in our house that since I didn't become a lawyer, I married a lawyer. So that's the closest to being a lawyer as I can. But as you said earlier, I just had that vision of what I wanted to be, because the church exposed us. Our church took us to Six Flags, took us to Carowinds, took us to, what's the one in Virginia, Dominion? King's Dominion. Took us to MLK Center in Atlanta. But the church was the bedrock of what we did back in the days. And I want to give a shout out to my former home church, Old Storm Branch Baptist Church, where Reverend Dr. Nathaniel Irvin, who's now deceased, was the pastor, but he was like Pastor Jackson is here. He was a local politician as well as the pastor in the area. Everybody came, if you were gonna be elected, you kind of came through our church, and that's some of the stuff that I learned along the way. But I had a vision. Again, the church had summer feeding program. We used to call it Feed a Kid, where throughout the summer, we didn't have summer school. We had the program through the church, and teachers that were off for the summer would come and still teach us Christian education in the morning, and teach us ELA, English Language Arts, and maybe some math from 9 to about 12. Then from 12 to 1, we would eat, and then we would go home. But again, that was in rural South Carolina back in the 80s and early 90s. So that worked well for us. But then my father is also a brick mason. I will tell you, I worked from 3rd grade to 12th grade as a brick mason. And one thing about it, my daddy said, you can do this. You know, he said 4 years of hard work, 50 years of easy labor. I said, Dad, I'm thinking I'm gonna take that ride, and I wouldn't have been there.
Hey, Jamie, you got spankings?
Did I?
Well, I know the brick mixing spankings had to hurt.
So let's be open and honest and transparent. Did I get spankings? I did. We got whippings.
I was about to say, yeah, you didn't get spanked.
we got whippings. Now let's be clear. I'm not the person that you see here is not the young man that I was. I'm 50 years old now, so 40 years ago, I would have been 10. I got in trouble, but I was smart, and so because I was smart, I didn't have behavior issues. What's the word, Baron? Give me a word. When you're smart, you kind of act out in class because you always did. Okay. Yeah, I was being disrupted, Baron. No, but because I was smart, I was ahead of the class, so I wouldn't go and bother other students. And so I was being disrupted in the class, but I didn't want to be skipped because my brother and I are literally 14 months apart, and he was right ahead of me. So he was in 2nd grade, I was in 1st grade. He was in 3rd, I was in 2nd. So people thought we were twins, but we were not. But we were just right behind each other. But I say all that to say, go back to your basic question now, and I apologize. Yes, I had a vision. I knew what I wanted to do, and I stuck to the vision other than becoming a lawyer. So I married one. Thank you.
To answer the question, absolutely not. There's nowhere in the world that I could think or imagine when I was your age that I would be doing what I'm doing right now. And that's a testament to how good God is. So I'm gonna give you the short and skinny real quick. When I was your age, I was living in the projects in Richland, North Carolina. 214 Benton Court was our address. Let me tell you about Benton Court. Years later, we found out that Benton Court was amazing. Benton Court has produced doctors, lawyers, politicians, Super Bowl winning fullbacks that play for the Baltimore Ravens. All of us grew up in that projects. But when I lived in the projects, I lived with my mother and my younger brother. I had no structure at all. I was able to run and do whatever I wanted to do. And I got into some trouble. And so my aunt was the only person in our family that had went to college and graduated. So she knew that I needed structure in my life or I was gonna be on the wrong road. And so what happened was she called my dad and told my dad that he needed to come and get me. And so I'm a true Carolina boy. My mom's from Richland, North Carolina. My dad's from Dillon, South Carolina. It's right there on the border. We're south of the border. It's a place called South of the Border. So if you drive 2 miles, you're in North Carolina. You drive the other way, you're back in South Carolina. And so I was in school, and our school was set up so you could see people that come in the building. And I heard the kids say, "Ooh, Derrek, your mama there. Who that man with her?" I was like, "Oh, that's my daddy, what I did." And so, long story short, my dad came and picked me up, and I wasn't happy because I didn't understand that I needed structure. I just knew I wanted to stay with my mom because I had freedom. My dad took me in. The contrast from living with my father and living with my mother was my dad lived in the suburbs, but he was a hardworking man. He worked at a sawmill, and that's where I learned my work ethic from. I wasn't doing yard work when I was living with my mom. My dad would get me up on Saturday morning, take me outside. We would cut our yard, Miss Betty yard, Miss Janie yard, and Mr. Sam yard. All of those yards had to be taken care of, and I never understood that. But he was teaching me community and building community and work ethic. And I remember one Saturday he looked at me and he said, "Son," sort of like the same thing your dad said, "Son, you don't like to work hard, so you better stay in school." And I said, "You know what? I think I better stay in school." Right now to this day, I still have calluses on my hand because we did real yard work. We cut wood, we raked yards, we did all of the above. But that exposure and structure gave me the opportunity to start seeing things that I never saw before. And so I lived in a neighborhood where my neighbor down the street was a principal. My neighbor across the street, diagonal, she was a teacher. And I grew up amongst those kids, and I started seeing their brothers and sisters going to college. And so when we would go on spring break, we would come up to the University of South Carolina and spend that spring break being exposed to things that were going on. So this is what I realized. I don't want to work at the plant like my daddy do, because he's tired every time we get off on third shift, and he was working swing shifts. I think I better go to college. I knew I had to go to college, but let me tell you this, when I got to Benedict College, I was a great football player. And so all these schools were recruiting me, Tennessee, all these big time schools, but I ain't know nothing about no SAT. And then all of a sudden, everybody stopped calling. And I said, well, I gotta do something. So I'll never forget, I was going to see the Air Force recruiter, and Tony Felder had just got the job at Benedict College. And he called me. He was the football coach at Fairfield Central, and we had just played them in the playoffs. And he said, hey man, you want to play football? I was like, yeah. He said, can you get to Benedict tomorrow? Can your parents bring you to Benedict tomorrow? My parents brought me down to Benedict. My stepmom and my dad brought me down to Benedict. They signed me up. One of the most exciting days of my life, because I was a Cosby Show kid, so we used to always watch the Cosby Show, was when I got my acceptance letter to Benedict College. I was high on life. And I would tell anybody to this day, and I scream it to the top of my lungs from the top of the mountains, Benedict College saved my life. Because at that juncture, I knew that I had to be there. I had no idea about what you major in. I'll never forget Mr. Juarez being down to BC Cares, and the lady said, what you gonna major in? Major in? Let me see the list. Guess what I picked, y'all? Early childhood education. The hardest major in the entire college. And so I didn't realize that till maybe a couple years later. I ended up switching over to interdisciplinary studies and just surrounding myself with people that were doing positive things in the neighborhood, making sure that things that were instilled in me that I had no idea that my dad was instilling in me as far as community and taking care of people, it just became natural to me, and nobody had to ask me to do it. And so fell into the human services job where I was programming for kids, and it became natural to be able to talk to kids. I'll never forget somebody say, you good with kids, you should be a school teacher. Negative. That's not happening. But just being around people and being able to understand and where you are, and just soaking up knowledge from folks, and being open for constructive criticism and being open to learn has given me the opportunity to sit where I'm at right now. And I sometimes still, and I am in disbelief at times for where I'm at. It's like when I get those phone calls from people that say, man, you're doing a wonderful job. I'm proud of you. I mean, when I go back to Dillon, they think I'm a billionaire. But at the same time, I am rich because I have rich friends. I have a beautiful family. I'm living. I'm able to sit here and I'm able to talk to you guys and pour into you. And I just was able to take the opportunity and make sure that I made the best of it. I have a saying that I use for my college students and just people in general. My job is to facilitate exposure and help eliminate roadblocks, and I live by that. Thank you.
And so, young men, I hope every single last one of you caught on to commonality in what they were sharing. Everybody talked about different stages of their process, but there's a few things all of them said collectively. They made their mind up. When they were younger, they didn't know exactly what they wanted to do, but as they continued to grow, they figured it out and they made goals. How many of y'all have goals right now? Raise your hand if you have goals. How many of you have your goals written down? They said they wrote them down. So that's a note and a nugget you can take from them. Write your goals down so you visually will have something to, what do they call it? Instant gratification. It's not going to happen when you set goals. It's going to take time. It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take patience with yourself and with others. So write your goals down so that they can be tangible and you can visually see them. Another thing they said is get yourself around the right people and keep yourself away from the wrong people. That's what we do, right? Raise your hand if that's what we do. Okay, all right. And he might not get it right all the time, but once you find out about somebody and that they could potentially lead you somewhere you don't want to be, go ahead and remove yourself from them. 2, Representative Kambrell Garvin, State Representative. The first question we have on here for you says, state and local governments often overlap in responsibilities. How do you see your role at the state level connecting with the needs of our local communities?
Great question. So state government truly does have an impact on every facet of our life. Let me give you some examples, from public education to setting curriculum, to setting policy at the state level, to access to health care and making sure that our communities have access to health care. And we work with, and we should be working with our local government, our local partners, from our city councils to our county councils to our school boards on these things. What happens at the State House is really important because it sets policy for all of us all over the state. So for example, here in Richland County, we have two different school boards, well really 3 different school boards. And with those 3 different school boards, the things that we do at the State House have a direct impact on what happens at the local level. So it's really important that we send good people to the State House that have a sense of what's happening in our community and that can advocate for our various issues and our positions to ensure that our voices are heard. Let me tell you what's happening at the State House. So we are, as Democrats, I'm a Democrat, I think everybody up here is a Democrat, we're all Democrats, as Democrats at the State House, we are in what's called a super minority status. That means that the majority party, the Republicans, literally have enough seats or positions there where they can conduct all of their business even if no Democrat showed up, okay? So let me give you some even more narrow example. In the State House, there are 36 Democrats out of 124 members. In the State Senate, there are 12 Democrats out of 46 state senators. And so with that being said, is we really have to fight hard to make our positions heard. And that's why, because we don't have the political power at the State House, that's why working with our local partners, from our school boards to our county council to our city council, where we do in fact have the numbers here in Richland County, is really important. Let me give you an example. We tried to pass a hate crimes law. Well, let me go back. How many of you all are familiar with Mother and Manuel, the Charleston shooting that happened a couple of years back, about a decade ago, 2015, okay? Where 9 parishioners, 9 churchgoers were in Bible study, and a white supremacist walked in after they had conducted Bible study and shot and killed them. We've been trying to pass a hate crimes law which would ramp up or would amplify the penalties for doing something like that in our State House, and we have been unable to do it. However, my good friend Councilman Pugh and his colleagues on county council were able to get a hate crimes ordinance, the first hate crimes ordinance passed in the state. So that's an idea. So let's give them a round of applause for that. That's a big deal. So that's why it's really important that we have people positioned everywhere. And I'm going to be honest with you. The power lies in Richland County at the local level. It lies at the local level. Our school boards, if you look at the Richland 1 school board, if you look at the Richland 2 school board, those groups have a lot of influence over the budget, over what's happening. So I say all that to simply say, while I am a state elected official and while the work that we do is very important, working together collaboratively with all folks from the city council to the county council to the school board is going to be important, and it propels our community forward. Thank you.
So, Councilman Tyler Bailey, as a city council member, how do you balance development with preserving community identity?
That's a great question. I think that preserving community identity should always be in the forefront of any development that comes forward. And so development is great. We do want change. We want new industry to come in, new housing to come in. But it's important that development, communities are included into the development. A lot of times developers have their interests, which is usually to make some money, right? And they could care less, this is my opinions, about what the community looks like. They want to go where they want to go. That's why it's really important for council members and local representatives to make sure the people who elected them, their voices are a part of that plan with any development. And so a lot of times, whether it's, I serve at large, so you may have student housing developments coming downtown, and it's really important that we look at where they're going. Should they receive the same incentives? Should we use our resources to foster people like yourself when y'all ready to buy homes versus just laying out the red carpet for developers who are looking to park some money from New York City in the state. And so it goes hand in hand, but truthfully, I think the most important part of development is make sure that the community identity is preserved and also looking how we're developing our people first. Whether that's giving them the resources to buy homes, giving them the resources just to get around with their everyday lives, versus just looking at how we can just bring industry. It goes hand in hand. Columbia is hot, people are coming here, but making sure people are first is a priority of mine.
Ain't that beautiful, y'all? Y'all getting to see this live and in person. You know, when I was y'all age, this is what they were arguing and going back and forth about in the meetings, and we hadn't made it that far. And so, thank you, Brother Jamie. Councilman, I couldn't even trick him on that one. Derrek Pugh.
I was like,
yeah. Okay, so city councils often deal with big picture infrastructure. What's one infrastructure priority you believe is critical for Richland County's growth?
so that's a good question. The city does focus on big picture ideals, and most of the time it's because of where the city is and how many people visit the city. Most of the time, a lot of our action happens in unincorporated Richland County, so meaning that we have a lot of things going on outside of the city where you don't have a municipality that kind of oversees what's going on, i.e. unincorporated. And so one of the huge projects that we're currently working on is a project that's in my district, the Scout Motors Project. And so the Scout Motors Project is a $2 billion project. They're building a plant that's going to build EV cars. They just made another $300 million investment this past week. And one of the huge infrastructure projects, and it's really not a county infrastructure project, it's really a state infrastructure project, is the bypass. And it's a bypass that they're currently building over I-77. It's going to be a train bypass that goes over that helps them deliver the cars so they can get on the train and send them down to the port so they can send them wherever they need to send them. And I say all that to say, when you start looking at infrastructure projects such as that, it's huge because we have this huge plant that's coming in. We know it's going to be an influx of people, but at the same time, we are already dealing with traffic issues, right? And so one of my favorite lines I like to tell our constituents is, you know, whether Scout would have came or not, we still gonna have traffic problems, right? And so this is gonna help alleviate some of the traffic projects. But one of the other big picture things is we need to focus and make sure that we're supporting and giving Representative Garvin and his colleagues exactly what they need as far as keeping the public away from them. A lot of times resources are not tangible or money per se. Sometimes it's just building that relationship currency with people in the community so they understand that you're not trying to just do something without them knowing. And so the other thing that we're doing at Richland County is we just had the Penny Project that's passed. And so the Penny Project helps with, when you start talking about infrastructure projects, it helps with projects that's in the city, it helps with projects in the school district, it helps with projects on the state level. And what that does is anybody that comes to our town or comes to visit our town and they buy gas or they buy anything, they pay an extra penny and it goes into a pot. And we use it to make sure that we can fix those potholes in the road and we can build the bridges and fix the bridges that we have. We can make sure that we keep the Comet running, and we can make sure that each person in the 11 districts that the body consists of that I sit on have extra funds to be able to do, and I hate to use the word pet projects, but a lot of times certain communities get looked over, and we're just gonna speak the truth. Certain communities look over, so what we did was we took $20 million from that Penny Project that's coming and gave $20 million to each council member to be able to help with infrastructure projects in their specific district. And that effort was the ball was carried across the goal line by every last one of these gentlemen that sit on this panel. Myself, Brother Devine was a great voice for us, as well as Tyler Bailey, Brother Garvin, and Sam Johnson all understood that if we didn't get this passed, that it would be detrimental to the infrastructure of our community. And so when you talk about the question that you asked about us working together, I can very honestly, truly say I got all these gentlemen on speed dial. And we always talk, whether it's sometimes we may hear something that may not be true, or we may be working on something and giving each other a heads up to let each other know. And so when you talk about infrastructure, it's all of us together that are working to make sure that things happen.
All right, clap it up. Now, y'all, I can say this, y'all good at what y'all do. So, Commissioner, as soon as he pointed, Jamie Devine, education is often called the foundation of strong communities. What initiatives are underway to strengthen the pipeline between schools and careers? And you just kind of alluded to that with this project, but if you would like to expand.
Thank you, sir. So I will say some years ago, back in 2015, through our strategic plan, Richland 1 said we want to continue to partner with the community, and Senator Jackson raised his hand and said, how can I help? And one way of helping is we got $1 million grant from the State Department of Education to start Thrive Richland. And it's really literally from the cradle to career, where we take our young people from age 0, from the time they're in the hospital, even from the time they're in the mother's womb, where we have family engagement specialists who go out to the hospitals and visit those persons, those moms who are pregnant, and help them with resources that they need to help their child to understand, reading to your baby while the baby's in the womb. Then once the baby is delivered, get those prenatal items and resources that they may need. And then on top of that, we have a facility here across the street, Dream Center, where they allow us to come in, and then we teach the community, again, provide those resources from 0 to 3, and then at age 3, they can begin to go to our public schools from pre-K up to 12, and then from there, they continue to hopefully either go on to college, career, or military, so that they can continue to be contributing citizens to society. So that's one way. Second way is that we have Early Childhood Initiative, where we, some years ago, I think it was Dr. Percy Mack, started all of our local child development centers. We provide an opportunity for them to come to Richland 1. We teach them the curriculum that they may need so that they can get whatever resources that they may need, and also some professional development for those early childhood centers, because we know those young people are coming to Richland 1, or either Richland 2 or LR 5. And so those in the surrounding Richland County, Lexington County area, they can come to Richland 1. We have it, I think, every year in the spring, where we have the Early Learners Conference, and they get that CE or professional development training for us. So that's another initiative that we're doing. And then we also have Hayward Career Center. We for years, and I say we as society has always encouraged our young people to go to college. College is great, nothing wrong with college, but we also need to get you all in the career field as well. We're gonna need plumbers, like I tell you, my daddy's a brick mason. We need folk to work on cars. Cars now become not animated, Lord, I'm sorry. It's more mechanical, and so we need people to continue to fix on our cars. Mechatronics is real big, so we got to look into that. Computers, cybersecurity, all of that. We need young people to go into those fields. Nothing wrong with those fields. I'm in housing. Let me be real clear with y'all. I called my plumber, Mr. Abrams, who's a graduate of Richland 1, Columbia High School. Mr. Abrams charged me about anywhere from $95 to $125 just to come out and look at the problem. He ain't fix the problem. He just come out and look at the problem. Okay? I got an electrician who comes out, same thing. He's anywhere from $75 to about $125 just to come look at the problem. You see? So when you say young people to go into careers, again, I went to college. Everybody up here went to college, but we're gonna need persons like you all to also look at other career options and opportunities for our young people. So we want to make sure that at Richland 1, whatever it is that you want to do to meet your dreams and your potential, which is in our vision statement, we want to make sure that we do it, because again, we won't be here long. A long time.
There it is.
A long time. Okay? But let me say this. Somebody got to take our seats. Somebody in this crowd is going to sit up here. Okay? Somebody in this crowd is going to be the moderator. Somebody in this crowd is going to be the pastor. Somebody in this crowd is going to be the deacon. Somebody in this crowd is going to be the trustee. So we got to prepare you to take our places. And that's what we don't do good at in African American community, in my opinion. We don't do good succession planning. We got to plan for tomorrow. I got an 8-year-old son. I'm trying to prepare him now for tomorrow. His tomorrow is going to be here in 9 years. He'll be 18 at that point. But we got to get you all prepared. Some of y'all are even 14, 15, 16, 17 now. So you got to be ready to step up and step into our shoes. It'll be great to have a young person to come and do what we do. Anything great that's ever happened in this country was done by who? By young people, by the youth. Okay? While we may have the wisdom, we may not all have the strength. And the strength comes from the young people. So we need y'all. And so in the school district, we have policies in place to prepare you all for options and opportunities to allow you to become the best you to meet your dreams and your potential. Thank you.
All right, clap it up, y'all. Clap it up. All right, so we got one more. Ain't no guessing about this one. We'll make my way over here to future city council member. Receive it, receive it, receive it, receive it in the name of Jesus. As a candidate, you have a unique perspective right now on this panel. What is one issue you believe the city has not addressed adequately, and how would you approach it differently?
How many of y'all, and this is strictly for the young folk here in the room, so if you're under 17 and under, how many of y'all are blessed to live in a house? Okay. So if you're blessed to live in a home, in a house, apartment, what have you, how much does it cost? You know?
I
What you
know.
got? How much is your, huh? Say that?
You said how many thousand?
I know exactly.
How much?
What you got, Jeff?
So I would say the estimate now would probably be 200,307.
You're breaking that math down.
The estimate would probably be $200,300, and when it was first on the market before my granddad bought it, it was $130,000.
Okay. Okay.
All right, there it is.
So if I heard you right, when you initially purchased the house, $130,000, and you said it's now valued around $230,000. The challenge is in the city of Columbia. The opportunity to buy houses for that price is very limited. And so the challenge that we have here in Columbia is we want as many families, as many opportunities to raise children, to have those children reach their God-given potential, for them to be upstanding citizens and then eventually taxpayers. Because any of the resources that we're talking about up here requires you to pay taxes. So I'm gonna get back to that McDonald's that we talked about earlier. Somebody mentioned the McDonald's over at Lower Richland and the potholes. I'm gonna get to that. But the challenge that we have in Columbia that I would say we have to focus on and address, that's one of our number one issues, is housing affordability. We've got to make sure that we are creating more opportunities for folks, especially folks who look like us, to be able to afford to live within the four corners of the city of Columbia. And that requires intentionality. That requires us making sure that our city, and I'll tell you one of the things I love about Columbia, and I love about just in South Carolina, is I love our history. And so if you look at our city council, it's set up in 4 districts. And primarily folks who look like me and you historically that live in District 1 and District 2. And then you have a lot of folks who don't look like us, who live in District 3 and District 4, and certainly that's changed post-1960s and 70s. But primarily it's still the demographic and geographic trends. And if you look at the average home value on one side of Columbia and the average home value on the other side of Columbia, all right, there are two totally different numbers, right? Literally, it's almost double on one side of Columbia than the other. And in this country, in the United States of America, the opportunity to increase your net worth, to create generational wealth. So for you all who aren't thinking about it right now, but when you think about your Jamesons, your Kennedy, my 5-year-old Kennedy, when I think about being able to pass on generational wealth to her, it's through real estate and property. And so that's one of the major challenges that we've got to figure out here in Columbia is how do we make sure that not only families are able to grow here in Columbia and reside in Columbia, but how do we make sure that they're able to do it in an affordable way? And so I say that is the number one challenge that we've got to tackle, is that accessibility and affordability.
All right, clap it up for Sam Johnson, y'all. Didn't our panelists do a great job? We can do better than that. Make some noise for them.
My name is Daniel McKelvey Jr. I go to East Point Middle Campus. I'm 11 years old. And to him, right there.
Brother Derrek Pugh.
How do you know that the people you're giving the $20 million to are responsible for the money?
That's a good question. Well, we're not actually, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And not use it for personal reasons.
Gotcha. So we're not giving the 20 million to individuals. We have 20 million available to do specific projects. So the body that I sit on and myself, I will be responsible for how the money is distributed in the district, as long as it's being given out. So we're not giving it to an individual. We're actually have those funds available to beautify and make projects available, accessible. Sir?
The elected officials, when you give them $20 million to them, how do you know they don't use it on personal reasons?
Ethics.
Ethics. You haven't stumped me on this question, sir. Again, we're not giving the 20 million out to people, individuals. I'm going to be the person responsible for the 20 million, and I can assure you it won't be used for personal reasons.
Okay, there you go. All right, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up. Great question, DJ. Great question.
And the Attorney General of South Carolina, he will make sure too. And the people who elected them trusted them to be good stewards of the money. That's the great equalizer. And then, God forbid, somebody is using it for personal gain. It'll be found out and they go to jail, and nobody wants to go to jail.
And the last thing I'll add is it's not going to Derrek Pugh's bank account either.
Right.
Absolutely not.
All right, we had another question right here.
Hi, my name is DeAndre Palmer. I'm 17. I go to AC4 High School, and I'll be 18 next month. My question is, why do they pay the disability people so low? Because they really don't do much in life, so I feel like they should get paid more.
You said disability, right?
Yes.
People on disability. He said he feels like they deserve more.
Well, let me, go ahead, Jamie. Okay, well, let me try to answer that. And so I think that, to your point, I think government has a responsibility to help its people, okay? There are some people that who believe in the idea of small government, and who believe that government should do as little as possible, and that you should, be able to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, or your own shoestrings. However, some people don't even have boots or shoestrings. And so when you don't have access, when you have historic issues, think about it. African Americans are 200 years behind our counterparts because we were enslaved for so long. And then we went through a period of Jim Crow where we didn't have access to some of the same resources. So when you talk about the historic and the systematic racism, which is what it is, which has impacted our community, you have people that don't believe that government should help certain people. You have people that don't believe that access to healthcare should be given. You have people that don't believe that access to even good quality education should be afforded. And so when you talk about disability, and of course that spans across racial or economic lines, It impacts everybody, but it just goes back to a mindset of what is the role of government. And I happen to believe, and I think many of my colleagues will believe, that government is supposed to help people, and that we need to use it as a source for good and to better all of our lives.
I'd love to chime in on that. I'm a commissioner, if I might lean on you.
I think Tyler.
So I started out my career working in state government, and it was an interesting time, because as you mentioned, limited government, I remember in 2000, y'all help me, I think it was 2007, 2008, the state, and we talked about homelessness earlier, briefly, 2007, 2008, the state dramatically cut, and I don't remember the exact figure, but there used to be the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs, and they gutted that department, right? Along with the Department of Mental Health. So I'll get to that in a little bit. And so a lot of your question is tied to opportunity, right? So a lot of the voc rehab programs, a lot of the different programs that help with training, so that folks who may have disabilities who are able to work and gain skills and that sort of thing, a lot of those programs went away, right? And so as we talk about limited government, and some of the supermajority that we've had, and now we're in supermajority plus, when folks make those decisions, right, there are repercussions. And what you're talking about right there is a dramatic repercussion. Folks are not getting those services. Now, Commissioner, if I might lean on you for a little bit on this, I know, for example, like Richland 1, you guys have a Hill Career Center. You have state funding that you receive, but when that funding gets cut, there are dramatic challenges, right? There's a cause and effect here. If you show me your values and you cut funding for something, there's going to be an effect, there's going to be an impact. And that's the challenge that you're highlighting in your question.
If you receive $1 million grant to use for the city in any way you want, what would you do with it and why?
$1 million, I get to have sole authority how it's spent in the city.
You said you get all authority.
Sole authority. Nobody, no criticism. That's a great question. I think that I would probably use it to develop some areas where historically African American communities were living and have gone to other places, and there's lots that are available. Build some housing and give certain communities the first opportunity to buy those to come back. With $1 million, I'll probably try to leverage that and make it a lot more than 1 million too, and that's what I would do with it.
Hey, Brother Baylor, I would love to jump in real quick and say, when you say the word $1 million, of course I don't have $1 million in my bank account, but
Not yet.
not yet, but we'll receive it. But when you actually look at and you use the figure $1 million, that's really not a lot of money when you talk about services and things that you can change to really have an impact on the community. Those things, I think about some of the budgets that we approve that super exceeds $1 million. Commissioner Devine, what's the number on your budget to give them an idea?
So our budget is, total budget is little north of $600,000, $700,000 total, but our general fund is about $490 million, $480 million.
So that gives you a perspective on exactly how much it takes to be able to have an impact and provide services in the community.
Let me
Wrap it up.
Let me also add too. So I do nonprofit work. So let's take the $1 million that you just said. So $1 million, if I could build a house for $100,000, I only need 10 houses. Just to give you some quick math. So with that said, and leverage that with, he goes to the community and say, hey, Mr. and Ms. Banker, you go to 4 different banks, leverage that with another $1 million, because he has $1 million, he can get $4 million, so now we can build 4 times the number of houses using that scenario at $100,000. But it's hard to build a $100,000 house in this day and age. Most houses now cost between $150,000, $170,000. I'm gonna say close to $200,000. So you get less units. So because it costs so much more, because we have these other interruptions like tariffs across the country. And the supply, correct.
All right, yeah, so if y'all had $100,000 to build a house, it would be a very, very nice tiny home in today's age, all right?
My name is Jonathan Kirksey. I'm 11 and I go to Richland Middle School. And my question is, why do some public schools have higher ratings than others?
So we have a rating system in South Carolina I think is disproportionate for schools. I don't think we should rate schools. I think this teacher should be allowed to go in and teach, and I think the teacher should be allowed to go in and do what he or she needs to do. It also shows a disparity between the different schools, and some of that's based off money, some of that's based off resources, some of that's based off different things that we have. But it's also showing, in my opinion, that certain schools aren't at certain levels. And I will tell you, and I'm going to use Richland 1. When Richland 1 begins to, and notice this, when Richland 1 begins to climb, which we are climbing, coming out of COVID, everybody kind of decreased nationwide, city and statewide, and locally. But now we're beginning to come out. They're going to begin to change some of the goals for what public schools should look like in the future. But I don't think schools should be rated. That is my personal opinion. But I say that they're rated because they want to keep certain schools at certain levels and in certain categories so that they cannot succeed.
And let me add to that. I'm a former public school teacher and having taught in a rural school district down in Colleton County. And I was, like I said, graduate of Richland 1. On my first day in the classroom as a teacher in Colleton County, we had a smart board, but we didn't have access to a working computer. And so there are disparities between our various districts, and having come from a district that had all of those things, I was just shocked to my core that in 2013, that we didn't have those sorts of things. So we have to keep in mind that where you live, unfortunately, your zip code sometimes does impact the tax base, and it does impact the opportunities that you have. One quick example, student in Richland 1, I was, 6th grade, I went on a field trip to Barrier Island, which was an overnight field trip that we took they took their 6th graders to. I had that experience. I went to Colleton County, my kids had never been on an overnight field trip. So what did I do? I mimicked my experience in Richland 1 and planned a 6th grade overnight field trip. So those are the kind of things that I think contribute to it, and it's a thing that we at the state, we have not historically funded education at the levels that it needs to be funded. Our state constitution only requires a minimally adequate education. And I will end by saying this: who wants to hire a minimally adequate doctor? Who wants to hire a minimally adequate lawyer? Who wants to sit in a building built by a minimally adequate architect? So why do our kids deserve only a minimally adequate education?
Well, I want to add something to that. Good clap. Give me a round of applause. One thing I just want to add too is, regardless of what school you go to, whether it's A rank, D rank, F rank, they say whatever it is, don't let anybody tell you what type of student you are, regardless of the school you go to. I don't care if somebody has an expectation for you being a C and barely making it. We're called to be excellent, and that's the only standard that applies, and that's the standard you should set for yourself.
That's right. Go ahead now. Y'all, I hope y'all heard him now. No matter what school you go to, because I graduated from the best high school in America, and none of y'all ever even heard.
And I've had cases sometimes with Harvard lawyers. I have a case with this NAACP case, Harvard lawyers. A lawyer I was working with, she left to go work for Kentucky Jackson Brown. And they're no better than, I went to HBCU law school.
Come on,
I'm telling you,
hey,
I'll put my colleagues up against the Harvard lawyers any day of the week. So don't listen to all that stuff. We're the best.
That's right. That's right. All right, we got a front row question, and one of the gentlemen in the back tour had a question, and then we're gonna come back to y'all.
You're charging adults for answers.
That's right. Wisdom.
Go ahead, Rick. My name is Brent Johnson. I go to Hand Middle School, and I'm 11 years old. So I just want to know, does the whole state have an exact date when they'll widen out highways or interstates?
Interstate question, great question. So I actually sit on a committee, and I've been traveling over South Carolina these past couple of weeks working on interstate improvements. So there's a budget, a pot of money that we have at the state level that we are distributing out across all the counties. So you're gonna be seeing, and you have already seen, road work. Let me give you an example. Here in Richland County, Malfunction Junction. Anybody know what, okay, so y'all know Malfunction Junction, okay? So that's a major project. Carolina Crossroads is what it's called, a multi-million-dollar project, and you're gonna be seeing some improvement in that roadway. Think about it, all of the trucks come through Columbia. So if you're going to the port down in Charleston, if you're going up to Greenville, everything travels through here. So it's really important that we have good roadways. And so let me wrap it up by simply saying that yes, roads are being worked on across the state, and we would love your input. If you have issues with like potholes in your community, call DOT, and you can actually self-report them. And if you don't get a response from DOT, that's when you call your elected official to say, hey, this is an issue that I need help with.
All right, clap it up, y'all. Clap it up. Yeah, just real quick to throw this in, because DeAndre, I know you're 17. Some of y'all may be 18 within a few years. The project he mentioned is an excellent way to get into the construction field. I did almost 3 years on the 26 widening project up in Chapin. Was a foreman for the erosion control department for United Infrastructure Group. And there's a lot of different ways you can obtain certifications, and they will pay for it if any of you older ones want to get into the construction field within the new few.
I'd like to thank everybody for showing up today. Thank you, gentlemen, for all your hard work and efforts. One of y'all mentioned something about chains. The way I looked at it in the different settings is that in some settings, they've just taken the shackles off your feet and put them on your mind. And the way they do that is through education. And what education does is, sure, the education opens doors and the lack of it closes doors. And unless somebody's changing that door, you need to walk through it. And so, but what I see a lot with our young people, and y'all talk about budgets and changes and stuff like that, when those changes and those ripple effects come down, it affects them. And when it starts to affect them, it's going to affect their choices. And I've seen it, and it's been told to me several times. You can choose your choices, but you can't choose your consequences. So when I'm taking a young man down to the juvenile detention center when I'm working as law enforcement, and I look in that back seat, man, I don't see no hope in that young man's eyes. Where's the hope? Where's the trust in the government? They and I know they make decisions based on where they are. So my thing to each and every one of y'all, what are y'all doing for your legacy? What are y'all doing as far as discipleship? I think some of y'all mentioned it earlier. And how can they tap into that so that when those situations affect them, everybody always say, man, tell the youngins to make better choices. But sometimes you have to be taught how to make the right choice, especially when peer pressure is getting them from the left and the right. Y'all come and speak for a moment. The church has them on Sundays for a little bit, and they try to do the best they can. But all during the week, they over there. And they have more time they have to think and have to manage that. And then you look at the household structure. If daddy ain't in there, well, mama working 2 jobs, who raises the kids? They latchkey kids. They come and they go, they do whatever. So I applaud that. I applaud you gentlemen for that. I know that I've seen it where I can go up a street and make a left, make a right. Okay, man, these streets and the potholes are horrible. Things are just horrible. But if I go make another left and another right, I end up somewhere near Forest Acres or whatever. I'm like, dang, man, what I come in a new world over here? Manicured lawns and people outside. I'm like, I wonder what their budget is. But then you go back over here to Hopkins, 29061. I'm like, oh my God, it's like a landmine. I'm just trying to go into Coffin Rec, Hopkins Rec, Bluff Road. These are facilities that these young people need to take, advantage of. But when you take away their hope, or they have to make choices based on what they know, and they are very immature and they're very impulsive. So my question to y'all again, what does the legacy look like? What are y'all doing discipling? How can the haves have just like the others? Because you're going to have to have the have-nots.
So
what
let
are y'all doing?
Let me jump in there because you good. Let me give you use the word discipleship. this is my wheelhouse. This is what I do. For the last 25 years, I've been in children's programming, right? I told you that I worked for Parks and Rec, and I ran all the after-school programs and summer camps. Then I also worked for the South Carolina National Guard for 4 years, running the South Carolina Youth Challenge Academy. I just left a company by the name of Abraxas Family Services, where I ran a substance abuse program for young men that had run-ins with DJJ. And so this is exactly where I'm at and what I've been committed to for years. And this is what I want to say, and I'm strongly so much agree with what you're saying about different neighborhoods looking different ways. But we cannot depend on the government to be able to foster what we want to see our young men look like.
Amen.
It's our responsibility as the community to make sure that we do what we need to do. And when I think about community, I think about us because we have the opportunity to provide resources to make it easier. But what we're doing right here this Saturday morning is what exactly needs to happen if we want to see change in our community. And if we want to see these young men be able to prosper, this is exactly what we need to do. We need to keep watering, we need to keep feeding, we need to keep making sure that they understand that they're positive role models that are out here. We're just the men with the titles. The real heroes are you guys that are here every Saturday morning making sure that these kids have what they need. So I say all that to say, man, I've seen you talked about a few minutes ago about driving the young men down to DJJ and you just looking at them, you don't see any hope in their eyes. Man, I had to get away from the South Carolina Youth Challenge Academy because I was going to too many funerals. I was having to make too many phone calls to tell parents that, hey, I know Johnny just left our program. I saw on the news that he was just killed. What can I do to help? And it took a toll on me mentally to be able to have to continue to see that over and over again. So when you say, discipleship, what are we doing and what are we trying to do? It's not what we do on the professional side when it comes to being the elected officials that we should be graded on. It's what we do outside of our elected official capacity to help cultivate programs just like programs that you gentlemen are doing.
All right, clap it up. Excellent response.
Overall goal and focus on this is doing just what we all are talking about today. The emphasis of educating these young men about how policy and rules and laws are impacting them in our community. We're seeing this across the board, and I know as elected officials and people in our community, you see what's happening to our young boys every single day. The killing, the jails, the trouble, it's overwhelming. And so my point is two things. One is when we talk about housing, Sam, when we talk about housing, my concern is for our young people living in what we call existing housing, our neighbors in our communities like right here in this area. We talk about Congress pointing to the development that's coming down, and our strategy and our efforts to educate the people who exist in the community, how they maintain and take care and manage, keep up their property. Because we are seeing a new regentrification of our communities. And what we saw in town at USC, all the people gone. And they're coming down here, and that's what's going to happen to these people. And the question becomes, not for you to answer now, but for our thought processes, where do people gonna go? Where they gonna go? Yeah. You can't afford the houses that they're building now. You can't. I was down at King Park the other day, and I turned and looked at my door, and I said, I must be in a new place. The new houses that they built in King Valley, well, we call it Valley Park when I grew up, King Park. I'm like, this is crazy. Our people can't afford those houses. So this is going to impact these young boys. This is going to impact these communities of people. And I guess the strategy is about what we're doing in terms of educating our people in existing communities about how you maintain the place. You got your grandmama's house, your great grandma, how you keep and maintain that house, how you keep that property. Right here in this neighborhood, they built this, I don't know what this is behind, I don't even know what that building is behind us. I grew up in this neighborhood, this big old, that's a big store. I'm telling you, just built it right in the back door of the neighborhood. So if you build it in the back door of the neighborhood, guess what? It's gonna start coming up a little bit further and further. Then the people ain't gonna have nowhere to go. So to address this comment about housing, we're gonna even see that more. So I guess my comment is about how do you all strategize, or what are you all doing? You don't have to answer this now about educating people in existing homes, how you maintain and keep up your property. The other thing is, Jamie, we talked about how we educated our girls and all these programs and these different services. Long time as a community social worker and as an educator, nobody talks about the program services for the boys. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about the teen pregnancy prevention program for the boys. Nobody talks. We've done programs. I worked with, Help to Start and did all those things, but nobody talks about this, about how we emphasize this. We always talk about the girls. We got a great program down here with the Jane R. Ruth Jackson Teen Mothers and all that stuff, but no one, even as black men in our community, no one is hammering on the need to educate. I mean, we're doing things, we're doing things, but no one publicly is doing that. And so I'm just concerned about that, and just thought I'll bring that up, emphasize that to us, even as black men in this community. What are we doing and need to be doing to coordinate the effort to make sure we educate our young boys and our young men? I mean, it's overwhelming. We gotta take a look at it. Yeah.
I'm happy to take the first part of that, and the second part was directed at Jamie. I'll say this, specifically on the housing piece. I mean, we literally, before we walked out here, we're just talking about, several neighborhoods, communities, literally along Shop Road, Bluff Road. Derrek was giving us some insight that he got from a friend who owns some property, several single-family lots, and that sort of thing. And how do we make sure that folks are able to stay in their communities? You mentioned Valley Park, Martin Luther King Park. You look at, like, for example, Greenview, and you see where we've had a generational shift, right? We've had folks who passed away. They've left that property to a loved one who may or may not live here. Their responsibility now, of course, is to pay those taxes. And when they don't, that generational wealth opportunity is gone. I want to real quick though, you mentioned our young boys. I want to ask the panel a question. Have y'all ever made a mistake? Tons. Jamie, you mentioned from your age now to when all of us were in our early teenage years. Did y'all make some straight? All right. Now, young men, I got a question for y'all.
Teenage 20s.
And I need all y'all's eyeballs, okay? So the young brother right there. Josh. I need your eyeballs. Have y'all made mistakes?
Yeah.
Big mistakes?
Yeah.
Okay. I need y'all to understand, how many of y'all watch the news? Okay, y'all see what's going on in this country, right?
I'm not proud of it.
Go ahead. But I need y'all to understand the opportunity for success for y'all is much, much narrower than it was for any of us. We made a lot of mistakes, a lot of wrong paths, and we were very blessed to be able to sit here in front of you. That opportunity for y'all, this country is making it narrower and more narrow. So that means that you all have to strive for excellence. One of these good brothers here was talking about excellence earlier. Y'all have to be locked in. For example, this morning, I see some of y'all, I know y'all tired, all right? But y'all gotta be locked in, okay? One of the first things that I mentioned was how when I was y'all's age, he mentioned the list that he made, Tyler mentioned, his goals and how he found his path. I mentioned emailing folks that I didn't know who were complete strangers. You got an opportunity here to get these folks, these individuals contact information to have them pour into you. Y'all's opportunity to be successful, you got to latch on it and be hungry for it. And to the brother who was just asking that question before, for our young men, I need y'all to understand that this country will spit y'all out. They look for the opportunity for young black men to go and make a mistake, to go in the wrong direction. And so I want y'all this morning to just take away that there are brothers in this room here who care about you, who love you, who want you to be successful, who know uniquely that we made mistakes too, okay? But we got your back, okay? The last thing I'll say, before I turn it over to Jamie, is y'all might not want to be a lawyer. You might not want to go into housing. You might not want to be an elected official, a nonprofit executive, a professor. Whatever your path may end up being, and one of the things that Representative Garvin mentioned earlier that I thought was beautiful is he talked about flexibility. But what I'll tell y'all, a friend of mine said something years ago that life moves at the speed of relationships. These brothers know everybody in Columbia. You know, these four brothers right here, if you look at their phone and their Rolodex, it equals literally the citizenry of Columbia and Richland County. So if there's something that you're passionate about that you want to do, one of these brothers right here can help you, okay? Utilize them.
My name is Devine. I'm 8 years old and I go to Logan Elementary. My question is, why do some schools have after schools like YMCA?
So I think that was a personal question.
I know, right?
Got it.
So all of our schools, particularly elementary schools, have aftercare programs. They may be called something else, maybe with the City of Columbia, YMCA, through Adventure.
My name is Daniel McKelvey, and I am the Generation Now leader here at Bible Way Church of Baptist Road, which is a mentoring group from the ages of 9 through 19 for young boys. And what we're doing, our Pastor Antoine, he teaches them spiritually, and the mentoring program, we show them how to be better young men outside of church, at school, with their parents, teaching them to be respectful. Number one, that's to be respectful to each other. That's the first foundation. I always tell them to be respectful to each other, be respectful to their parents, and be respectful to others outside. And we just want to help them be, because our kids gonna be better longer. They're gonna be adults longer than our children. So that's the purpose of the program. Today, what's transpired, God gave me a vision on when the righteous rule, which is a Proverbs 29:2. When the righteous rule, people rejoice. When the evil rule, people grunt. And the reason why it was on my heart, because our people, we don't know our laws, we don't know our position, and we put the people that represent us as the people. It doesn't matter whether they're black or white. They represent us to make decisions on the community, business, road infrastructure, school, and those things. I hope they left with today with an understanding of they look like you, and they want to help make a change like you want to make a change, and you can do it.